In August 2025, Canada's unemployment rate rose up to 7.1%, and I was part of it. Luckily, with my consistent effort of relentlessly discovering what's suitable for me, from back-end development and cybersecurity to IT support and embedded systems, taking relevant online courses, and later on desperately searching for any jobs out there that can pay my bills, I finally got an offer to work as a junior wood veneer technician after 4 months. This is the very first time in my life that I take 10-hour physical labor shift. I was wrecked after the first week, but I was so proud of myself. I told myself, as long as the job can pay my rent and groceries, it's a good job. After the second week, I felt like I was getting more familiar with the workflow and how to support the team. Then by the third week, there's no third week. At the end of the second week, just after I treated myself a great meal, the shop owner gave me a phone call saying that he felt like I wasn't the right fit and I didn't need to go to work on the following Monday. Certainly I was frustrated for a while, but this is just a tiny little bump compared to what I've been through in the past. Business decisions aren't moral dilemmas. No one has the obligation to pat my back, give me a hand, and lift me up. Although I felt betrayed, it is what it is, especially in this tough economy. So in order to deceive myself to move forward and show my character as a disciple of mathematics, I decided to tell myself a story by simulating a job seeker's situation. Disclaimer: the conclusion I'll reach in this video is, strictly speaking, not the result of rigorous mathematics, but an amalgamation of my biased observations of the reality, my oversimplified assumptions from patterns I noticed, and my unprofessional judgment for cherry-picking mathematical models. So please don't take this too seriously. Step 1. Gambling. Trying to become a movie star is probably a gamble. Trying to become a comic artist according to Bachman is a gamble. Trying to start a business is usually a gamble. Trying to day trade is most likely a gamble. Trying to get rich through lottery is obviously a gamble. Yet I've never imagined in my whole life that getting a job nowadays is also a gamble. Well, if that's the case, I can calculate the winning probability of getting a job, just like I can calculate the winning probability of blackjack, regardless of how slim the chance is. But unlike blackjack that usually people like to win multiple times, I only need to win once in job searching. Thus, the situation is similar to the following high school math problem. What is the probability of getting head at least once out of flipping the coin 10 times? Since the only case that doesn't fulfill the condition is getting tail 10 times, the answer is 1 minus 1/2 to the power of 10, which is 99.9%. Thus, I can have the following equation to describe the probability of getting the desired outcome at least once out of n attempts, where a small letter p represents the probability of getting one unsuccessful attempt. Step 2. 80-20 rule. Whenever people mention about competitive fields, Pareto distribution is one of the key elements in the investigation. 20% of people occupies 80% of the wealth, 20% of scientists publish 80% of academic papers, 20% of artists win 80% of the awards, the list goes on and on. Although this is an overly simplified naive model, I believe it roughly resembles the brutal reality of the job market, where the lower rank of my application compared to other candidates, the lower the chance of me getting an offer. While I can just use the Pareto distribution right off the shelf, the distribution of probability of getting a job according to the rank of a candidate is a discrete one, whereas the Pareto distribution is a continuous one. Therefore, I would like to use Zeta distribution instead, which means the probability of the kth rank candidate getting the job offer is inversely proportional to k to the power of s, where s is the shape parameter that controls how steep the distribution is. Then by adding the normalization constant in the denominator to ensure probabilities sum up to 1, I get the following equation. In order to determine a suitable S for resembling the 80-20 rule, I make use the average number of applicants for a single job according to JobDeck, which is 250. Summing all of the probabilities of the first 20% of the candidates would get 80% of chance for getting a job. While there is no analytical way to solve this equation, I use a numerical method to get an approximation with 3 significant figures, which is around 1.11. Step 3. Failure rate. Remember previously when I mentioned about calculating the probability of getting at least one successful attempt out of many, I was using the failure rate for each individual attempt. So let's figure out the failure rates for each job application. Assume I'm just an average candidate, ranking around 121st to 130th. Then my probability of getting the position is on average 0.0982%, roughly a thousandth of chance. However, since I need the failure rates instead, I use 1 minus this success rate and obtain 99.9%. Step 4. Implication. Now that I have the failure rates for each application, I can plug it into the equation of the probability of getting the desired outcome at least once out of n attempts. To draw a meaningful implication, however, let's change the variable n from number of attempts to number of months and multiply it with the constant m, which represent the number of applications I send per day. Let's say I would like to apply 5 jobs per day and want to know when will I reach 80% of chance for being hired by someone. That I can solve this equation and get roughly 10 months and 3 weeks as an answer, equivalent to around 1,638 job applications, which I think is a reasonable result based on the current job market. Conclusion. You might be wondering why I went through so much just to reach the same result as those reels on TikTok and Instagram about sending thousands of applications without a single offer. The answer lies in the emotional outcome. Those reels made me doubt myself, the employers, the job market, and the economy as a whole, which only leads to frustration, anger, and helplessness. I became more desperate, grabbing whatever advice I can get from hiring managers on LinkedIn and YouTube, spending hours tailoring my resume and cover letter, browsing job search hacks just to get an interview opportunity. However, the world is not going to reward people who work hard, but people who produce results. While knowing the fact that most of the applications are filtered and tossed away by ATS, I believe there is another path. On the other hand, the calculation I went through wasn't necessarily accurate. It nevertheless gave me an insight about the inevitability of getting an offer through consistently applying. The assurance doesn't come from any recruiting experts, but basic probability and mathematical models. People can continuously argue about how to get hired, but I know that none of the methods are better than having enough quantity of medium to high quality applications, which gives me confidence to trust the process. Therefore, here is my current strategy. I'm going to consistently apply for 5 jobs daily, where I'm sure that I'm at least an average candidate among fellow competitors for each job post, then tailoring my resume and cover letter with AI tools to improve the success rate for each application. Afterwards, I can call it a day for job searching, and turn my focus on building this YouTube channel, which certainly produces more outcome than submitting application forms. This is just a strategy I come up with for myself. You can stick with your own model, whether you find cold messaging recruiters or praying to God more effective. At the end of the day, we just need a why to bear almost any how in this brutal job market. And regardless, I wish your job searching journey all the best. That's it for this video. See you in the next one.